He wrote a letter every day for 3 years, and not a single one reached her. Every day for 3 years, Elias wrote a letter. He poured his heart out onto the page, sharing every experience, every pain, every hope, believing that somehow his words would find her. All he had was love and loss, memories and a name. He didn't know if she was alive or dead, but every night under the cold, dim lamplight he wrote as if she were waiting on the other side of the page, as if the paper and ink could carry him back to her. The war had stolen everything from Elias. His home, his family, and the girl he loved were nothing but ashes in the wind. When the Nazis invaded Poland, he was taken to a forced labor camp near Salzburg in Austria. At just 17 years old, he was ripped away from his life. He never saw his parents again. But it was also there that he learned Lena and her family had been taken away too. Though they were only teenagers, they had made a promise to each other, a promise of forever carved into the bark of an old oak tree near their home. One day as he worked, stripping wallpaper from a building slated for demolition, he found a scrap of paper and a pencil stub. He took them and hid them under his coat. That night, in the fog-covered hills of Europe, in the shadow of the ancient Austrian Alps, in a small tent in a refugee camp filled with tired souls, Elias wrote a letter. The paper was thin and rough against his calloused fingers, but the words flowed from his pen onto the page. He wrote about the sunrise over the camp, about the barbed wire fences, about the ache in his chest where Lena's name used to be. He didn't know if she was alive, but he wrote as if she were. He folded the paper, tucked it into his shoe, and waited. But the next morning, the letter was gone. The heel of his shoe was worn and torn, but the paper was smooth and crisp. Startled, confused, but resolute, Elias continued writing. Every night he wrote another letter, hiding the paper in different places, asking different people to take the letters when they left the camp, begging them to deliver his words to Lena. But by the time the sun rose again, the letters were gone. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The camp was emptied and new arrivals took their places. But through it all, Elias never stopped writing. He wrote about the snow falling on the barbed wire fences, about the quiet dignity of his friends, about the dreams he had of Lena's face. He wrote about the hope that kept him going, that pulled him out of bed each morning and pushed him through the days. He didn't know if she would ever read his words, but he couldn't stop trying. It wasn't until 3 years had passed that Elias met someone who would read his letters. A volunteer aid worker sorting through piles of displaced persons' belongings came across a tattered box filled with faded letters. Hope flickered in her eyes as she read the first letter. She saw the neat handwriting, the beautiful words, the unwavering love. She saw the story of a young man who refused to give up, who refused to let the darkness win. She tracked down Elias, now working in a displaced persons camp near Munich, and handed him the letters. His eyes filled with tears as he recognized his own handwriting, his own heart laid bare. He thanked the woman, but his voice was hollow. He knew his letters had never reached Lena, not one of them. The war had stolen too much, leaving him with nothing but memories and regrets. Yet the woman saw something different. She saw the strength in Elias's eyes, the kindness in his smile, the gentle way he carried himself. She saw that though the war had stolen much, it hadn't broken him. And as she walked away, she realized that perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. When you hold on to hope, when you refuse to let the darkness extinguish your light, when you keep writing your story no matter how many times it seems to end, that is when you truly begin to heal.